Hello everyone, this is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. If you haven't seen last week's video, Are We Being Farmed? Then why don't you stop this video and go back and view last week's first. This week, we are going to talk about Are We Being Farmed? Comments. And there was quite a number of comments. We had over 1,000 views on the video and well over 100 comments. A lot of people had a very interesting take on the video, so I'd like to discuss that. Real quick, I had an interesting week. On Monday, I was driving to work when a deer suddenly crossed into my path and did quite a number and a lot of damage to my vehicle. Luckily, I was being safe and well buckled in, so I'm fine. But that was very interesting. As you may recall, last week we discussed Robert Monroe's book, Far Journeys, more particular, his chapter where he talked about his creation myth as to why life is here on Earth and why we humans are here, and his theory that this substance called loosh was and is being harvested from us and from other life here on Earth, other third-dimensional life here on Earth, and it is being transferred elsewhere and used by higher dimensional beings. The comments that the video received, 99% of them were fascinating, well thought out, and you guys have done a great job, as you always do. So what I'd like to do is just kind of open this up, and I'm going to go through some of the selected comments that I think would add to our discussion. They're all good, but I can't read them all. So let's get into some select ones. Cale Bradbury said, I don't see why this loosh collection thing is a bad thing. If loosh comes from our emotions, then why not just focus on using our slice of free will to build up a world that creates it from purely love instead of suffering? This would give more power and space to the beings that feed off these higher frequencies and hopefully create a feedback loop that encourages more love-based loosh from us and in the process starves off those that feed on and create the negative. Interesting take. Milorad Morkoff said that when Robert Monroe first founded the Monroe Institute, he did so with two volunteers, a physicist and an engineer. And they helped develop the hemisync, which is used to create out-of-the-body states on demand. Now, the physicist is Tom Campbell, and he self-published a book, My Big Toe, and has uploaded thousands of hours of immensely valuable content to a YouTube channel. He was asked a question apparently about loosh. According to him, it is not something that's taken away from us. We are consciousness and are part of a larger consciousness system, which he calls an LCS, that creates our reality. This LCS is not stagnant, and it is due to the laws of entropy. It has to put in work in order to not deteriorate, so it gains complexity by each of these parts becoming more aware, more conscious, evolving, and getting rid of fear. Thus, we are not like cows being milked or sheep being sheared, but more akin to team members. As the individual team members' abilities increase, so does the performance of the entire team. In reality, there aren't any challenges. The progress is very slow, and even some deterioration occurs. But this deterioration can be described as an increase in egotistical behavior stemming from fear. The challenges are presented as opportunities and serve as catalysts for rapid consciousness expansion, which basically means getting rid of fear that colors our perception and clouds our judgment and limits our potential. That's a very deep, deep comment. Now, Sam Mangum said that it'd be a very sad thing if this loosh theory is true. then there couldn't be karma or global justice, as we're all just objects of use for a higher entity. He then mentions a book called The Tiger's Fang, which is, in this book, it talks about Paul Twitchell's experiences as exploring the out of the body astral levels. In one of these levels, this god talks about how humans are trapped in these lower worlds and incarnations until they awaken and then proceed off of this 84 million kinds of life wheel that is, I guess, an incarnation wheel. So I guess the basic idea is that we escape this incarnation wheel. Wendy Pyle said that I've listened to this video twice and I've heard about this concept years ago. Now, by hearing this again and reminiscing on my many spiritual lessons that I've learned, and looking back, wondering why people have constantly created all of the chaos in history that continues to this day. I can't dismiss this concept of reality, but I wonder if it's more important to rise above the loose scenario and learn to keep our egocentric troubles and perspectives in check so that we as a race can rise up beyond being just loose producing beings. Very, very interesting comment. Cisco Diaz says, hello, Rick. I have seen all your videos and had a brief exchange with you on Reddit. I really love what you are doing and what you're about. I find this topic interesting, and there are a lot of similarities in a book I came across called Master Keys to Spiritual Freedom by Kim Michaels. Apparently, this is a channeled book that talks about some of the many details of the creation of the universe and the details of human experience. Apparently, the ultimate goal of all humans is to eventually become aware of our true nature and to progress and to go in front of and to improve, such that we're no longer just giving this energy away. And he thanks me for all that I do. So thank you. Elijah Woods said, if we are really being farmed, then why would such a being, I guess the superior being, create such an extensive afterlife for us to experience? Are we still being farmed in the afterlife or in the astral plane? That's a good question. I don't know if we would still be farmed in the astral plane. It seems that from what I've read and what I've experienced, that the Lush is created by third dimensional beings in physical bodies going through these various experiences and emotions. As far as extensive afterlife, well, I perhaps that is something that exists because of our soul energy. Maybe that's not something that was created. Maybe it's something that exists because of some sort of natural laws, or maybe it's something beyond this being. I don't know. Interesting. Robo Creations said that I guess he heard me talk about The Matrix, and he recommended that I watch The Animatrix, which I have done in the past, and I just rewatched it again. The animations present 9 stories that are much tougher and more real than The Matrix. Apparently, The Matrix, he says, was diluted and cosmetized from the real visions of the directors to catch a more broad audience. However, The Animatrix, though, I guess presented what the creators or the directors originally wanted to present in a animated form. Robo Creations also mentions something called the Law of One, which is something that I encountered many decades ago. The Law of One talks about that there's certain universal laws, that there's 2 basic groups, those who service themselves, those who provide service to others, and that both of these groups can rise up in their developmental levels. And if you think about it, it's all the same from a certain viewpoint. if we are all one, then if you're serving yourself or you're serving others, you're still really, if we're all one, we're, no matter what, you're still providing service to the universal whole. At any rate, it's an interesting book, or series of books, if you ever want to get into it. Let's see here. Teehee said, I can relate to you, Rick. I also lost my sense of reality and was depressed for weeks once I found out about this conspiracy. She thought she was going schizophrenic. Chrome said, I am totally convinced that other beings intervene or have intervened in our evolution, and they help us to develop beyond the state of being cattle. This could just be other humans who've broken free and returned for their kin. So he's saying perhaps there was these other beings that have helped us humans and have intervened in aiding us over the millennia. Although it may be other humans who have risen above into higher levels and have come back to help their brothers and sisters. There are a myriad of explanations and motivations. I just know that there are many out there who are helping us develop beyond simple warfare and suffering. So a very positive message there. Sheena Holly said, perhaps once upon a time this 3D realm was created as a school for soul growth and karma. It's a typical New Age concept. Then later, a predator race or virus invaded and ruined the science experiment. Now it's basically a loosh farm, she says. The new terms of service were buried in the fine print. Does anybody ever read those fine print services? I always just hit accept. Every cause leads to an effect ad nauseum. Best guess is to transcend, raise your vibration, while being as unattached to the world as possible. She says, aim to remain neutral to outside events that you have no control over. And this mission is difficult, but is possible. Good luck, humans. Patrick Wellna says, wow, this is a wild video. Definitely going to get the Far Journeys book and read it for myself. When returning to your body, did you feel physically different? Or did you just get this high while touching the loose substance? It would be interesting to see what would happen if every human had access to this much energy. Much love, Rick. Patrick is talking about the section of the video last week where during my investigations of the loosh phenomena, I allowed the tiniest portion of this loosh, which was wicking off of the earth, to come in contact and integrate with my body's soul matrix. And it caused this tremendous sense of pleasure, well-being, knowledge, you name it. I mean, it was like I've never tried illegal drugs, but I imagine it was 1,000 times better than that. And that I was then stuck there until my astral cord pulled me back. I responded to Patrick. I said, well, when I returned to my body, it felt like I was still covered in a cocoon of warm, pulsating energy. He then replied and said, how long did it last? How do you feel it can positively affect your life? Would you consider dipping into this energy once in a while? Also, if this creator put a piece of himself into humanity, wouldn't it know that you're taking a sliver of its yield? I responded once more to Patrick Wellna. I said the warm glow lasted for hours before slowly dissipating. All I could do was lie in bed feeling waves of pleasure and power. But Patrick, it felt like the most powerful drug in the universe. The only reason I'm even typing this now is I was forced back into my body by my astral cord. I don't think our race is ready for a power/energy drug like loosh. Ulysses Macedo said, I remember reading about this farm theory years ago in occult supernaut forums and on Reddit. Apparently there were people who were using salvia at that time in order to explore this phenomena. Um, Now, back then, um, those claims could be easily dismissed because uh, Ulysses had evidently believed that it was probably a delirium caused by the drugs. But now, this terrifying reality of this theory is stuck back in my mind. Sorry about that, Ulysses Macedo. With your video and Monroe's book, however, I can no longer dismiss it. I endorse your recommendation of the Matrix movie, and I think you would enjoy watching Puella Magia Madoka Magica. I'm sure I probably slaughtered that. There's 12 episodes, 23 minutes each, and I believe it's still on Netflix. Interesting. I don't want to give away the plot, but entities harvesting emotional energy is a big thing there too. It's a deconstruction of the magical girl genre. I think we probably do need that. And the first couple episodes are slow and world building, but hang on until the third one. So, anyone who has Netflix, let us know if that Puella Magia Madoka Magica is still on, and if so, if it's good on Netflix. Let's see here. Teehee4 said, from the information that I've gathered, I could say that it is unfortunately true, but there is hope. Life on Earth has always been an experiment. All life has been genetically engineered by extraterrestrial entities, both positive and negative, for different purposes. Eventually, the extraterrestrial entities, both positive and negative, have started harvesting loosh. And so, I don't know. It's the ET theory has been out there for a long time, and who knows? Sam Mangum said, I almost certainly believe in this theory, although I have a question or thought. If an entity so capable of creating such a magnificent life Earth ecosystem, why would this entity not be able to just simply create loosh for its own use without having to go through all of this creation stuff? Special someone responded saying, maybe the farm analogy is useful here. We can't make meat without raising cattle. Theoretically, I guess we can. They're actually doing some experiments now in the laboratory to create artificial meat. But as it stands now, it's extraordinarily expensive to create meat this way. That's why the vast majority of our protein in meat farm comes from farms. So that's quite interesting. I think it's an interesting response. If you think about it, Sean Torres talks about gold, for instance, and you have to use a significant amount of energy to mine gold. Now, our physicists, our nuclear physicists, can actually create gold by bombarding a variety of subatomic particles to take one substance, say lead, and make it into gold. Now, it's not necessarily the most stable atom out there, but it can be done. However, it costs an immense amount of time and money and energy to do that. So mining gold is still the way it's going to be done in the foreseeable future because of the cost and the expense of doing something else. So perhaps you could scale that up and come up with the costs or whatever of creating pure loosh without going through all of the creation of life in third dimensional form. Perhaps it is possible, but perhaps it's just not scalable, or that it's just not something that can be done without spending more energy and not less. McWankle Edward said, hi, Rick. I have been wanting to get to the bottom of this whole loosh thing for about 10 years now, since I read Far Journeys by Robert Monroe. And he said he's had about 100 out-of-the-body experiences. So he's not completely inexperienced. And he said that consider me as a helping figure to help find out more about this whole situation. And I responded saying, excellent, McWankle Edward, excellent. I will consider you an officer in the underground Loosh investigation astral cell. We will get to the bottom of this thing eventually. Ulysses Macedo came back again and said, on second thought, this whole farm theory does cast a suspicious light on life after death, too, doesn't it? Reincarnation may not be desirable. I mean, there are mechanisms in place to force our reincarnation, and beings of light who convince us to go into a tunnel of light again. This takes me to another topic, retaining full consciousness after death and delaying reincarnation. There is a whole school of thought that holds that reincarnation isn't necessarily the learning ladder that many believe, that we have to go through all of these lifetimes in the physical to go up this ladder and to learn lessons and to improve. Others see it in a more sinister light. Perhaps reincarnation is some sort of a wheel that we've been locked into, that maybe we're not going up, maybe we're just going round and round. I'll be honest with you, I'm somewhere in the middle on the fence trying to figure the whole thing out myself. I know when I pass in this lifetime, I'm probably not going to be in a big hurry to follow the first being of light that tries to lead me along by the nose. I'll probably be a little bit more cautious, and with my knowledge, and hopefully with the knowledge of a lot of other Astral Club members, we'll be a little bit more informed consumers, if you will, not ready to follow the first being of light that shows up and claims to have the way. So let's just keep that in mind. Sam Mangum said, they can deceive us, they can trick us, they can fool us into believing something, therefore being influenced by them into making wrong decisions, but they can never force us. The free will is no joke on a soul and spiritual level. Now that's something I do agree with Sam here. I believe free will is not a complete fabrication, that it does exist on some level that can't be destroyed or inhibited completely. I do agree that perhaps if there is someone or something out there trying to control us, that they're doing so in a very clever way to have us buy into the process so that we can surrender a portion of our free will, at least willingly, to help them carry out their means. If anything else, let's be smart consumers. Let's be informed consumers. Let's make sure that we have thought about this process quite a bit before we make any long-term decisions now or in the future. Ultra T Witch says, we are far from the only physical life forms in the universe. So what about the more advanced civilizations? What have they got to say about this? That's who I would like to ask, and perhaps in the future, Astral Club members can contact. I have had limited contact with a few cultures, but I didn't discuss Loosh with them. So perhaps that would be an interesting topic. Let's see here. Emperor Yoshi said, I've heard many of these types of stories about archons and reincarnation traps and whatnot. My intuition and heart always warns me of very strong danger. He has danger in caps. Behind information of this variety. Fear and doom are the typical feeling tones that you get or that originates from negative ET and other contacts. A positive contact can be distinguished from that as it tends to cause hope and friendly feelings. So let's, I guess he's recommended the astral projection cheat sheet video to some people who are interested in astral projecting. So as much as we just talked about the reincarnation wheel, perhaps it's, perhaps we're interpreting it from a negative standpoint. Perhaps that's some sort of a tampering with our free will too. At any rate, it's another great viewpoint on the whole process. Now, Jawar Piqua said he was quite disappointed with me, actually. He said, "How is it fair to you to claim we are being farmed and all of our energies are being collected by an entity and then consume a portion of this energy to get high yourself? You're such a hypocrite because you have no right to consume any of that collected energy." And he is very disappointed in my decision making. Sorry to disappoint you, Jawar Piqua. However, I guess my reply to him was, before I presented this topic to my brothers and sisters, subscriber members of Astral Club, I felt it was my job to do at least some preliminary investigation on the astral plane. And that included sampling a small part of this loosh itself. Keep in mind that, doing that, I wasn't exactly sure of what would happen to me. But, it could have been an intensely negative experience just as easily as being a positive one. But I felt if I was going to talk about this topic, that I should actually investigate it myself, put myself through at least some level of risk so that I can report this topic in a reliable way. For instance, would you trust a war reporter who wouldn't put himself at risk, who stayed home on the couch watching the TV, and then based on that, write a story about what's going on in a war? So that's my defense to Jawar Piqua. William Mason said he neither denies nor accepts the idea of loosh. He says it can't be proven either way, and he prefers to harvest energy from beliefs that he feels better about. SSG said, "Rick, I am so curious as to you speaking about having past incarnations as different beings other than human. If you have experienced other forms of being, then how can this planet, i.e. Earth, and being human be such a big concern? Why do you care about us and this planet?" Well, I said, good question. I have concern for all life in the universe. Earth is my current adoptive home, and I've grown quite attached to it and its people. As far as the origin of soul goes, I theorize that the universe wanted to understand itself. And to accomplish this intelligence mission, it split itself into quadrillions and quadrillions of sparks of light and then sent them out into the void. Perhaps one day in the far distant future, all these sparks, all of these souls, all of these intelligences will return and will be able to unite and share with this large life form called the universe together, and perhaps become much greater as a whole than we currently are as individual sparks of life. Svetomir Ilyev, I know I slaughtered that, put forth a Christian theory. He said, if our Creator wanted us to suffer, He would not grant us the intelligence to overcome nature itself. Imagine if we lacked the intelligence to repair our teeth. What agony! Or lacked the means to build a structure to fend off the cold and the rain. We are beings who control our own destiny. And some may say we are God incarnate, and with full potential released by Jesus, that we can materialize anything out of our belief. The Saint 135 put forth what I would call more of a New Age theory. If we create our own reality on the different planes of existence, wouldn't it stand to reason that this harvesting energy from us against our will is something we choose to believe and therefore co-create. Just like religious people, when they die, they see Jesus. Does this mean Jesus is real? Well, yes, but only to those people. So, this loose harvesting thing, and furthermore, the idea that it's actually a bad thing comparable to bringing us as a lamb to the slaughter, perhaps it is also a choice of reality. I responded saying that I think you're putting forward a version of the good farmer theory, but you're also assuming that we really have unimpeded free will to make a decision to donate this energy. I said, I'm just not sure that cows, sheep, or humans have that level of actual free will, at least in an effective way. Because if we are being clouded or misled in some way, then perhaps our free will is not completely unimpeded. Dawn said, no, not correct. The ongoing rubbish that we create our own reality or manifest our own reality keeps people from questioning and getting to deeper truths. The myth that everything we experience is by choice on some level is simply a way for humans to accept what they currently cannot control. First of all, let me thank everyone who commented here. I think we have comments, questions, takes on this whole video. Are we being farmed and loosh? All over the spectrum. And I think it's very beneficial that we have this type of discussion, that we evaluate everyone's viewpoints all over the spectrum and try to come up with something that we are personally comfortable with. In this video, I presented Bob Monroe's creation myth as he expressed it in Far Journeys. And I thought, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that it was going to be quite this popular. I figured it was going to be controversial, but it seemed like it touched a nerve in our group. And I'm glad, because it forces us to think. It forces us to consider our place in the universe. And I think that's constructive, because I think we take for granted our place in the universe. And perhaps it's beneficial in and of itself just to consider for a portion of time, without all these preconceptions that we have learned over the years, what is our true place? What is humanity's true place in this universe? And I think that just the process of answering that question is probably beneficial. And I think it also helps our brothers and sisters as well. I know that Bob Monroe was a very experienced astral projector. He is not someone who is easily fooled. There are many truths in life. Some of them are uplifting, while others are less so. Just because a truth doesn't make one happy and stroke your human ego doesn't make it a lie. Keep in mind that the first of the 5 stages of grief is denial. As well, remember that the human race has faced many challenges in the past and has always survived and overcome them one by one. I believe this firmly, that we Astral Club members, along with our many billions of brothers and sisters on the earth, are powerful enough, if we unite, to overcome any challenges that we will face now and in the future. For my part, I look to tomorrow with hope and wonder. Thank you for your attention to this. I hope some of these comments provoked some further thought on your part. If you liked the video, please like it, share it with those of common interests. Subscribe if you have not already. If you have subscribed, smash that bell button. That way you'll get notified every time there's a new video. And as always, please help me with your questions and comments. I think they're some of the most intelligent that I have read on YouTube, and I always appreciate them. And don't be afraid to supply future topics for videos. Sam Mangum provided one recently where he said I should look into the idea of animals and pets in particular, and the nature of their souls and their soul progression. So that's something that I think I'm going to do some more research on and see if I can present that. So if you have any excellent ideas, please leave them down in the comments as well. And if it's something I think that I can add some light to, then perhaps we'll do a video in the future on that subject. Okay, well, everyone, thanks a lot and have yourself a great week. And as always, I will see you on the astral plane.